So let's talk wilderness survival and the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge. So a while ago, I made a video called The Rule of Threes. I highly suggest you watch that video first. The Rule of Threes basically covers what you need to do to mentally understand the priorities that exist when it comes to survival. What I mean by that is this. If we barney down wilderness survival to its core thing, it is essentially don't die. But in order to not die, you have to assess logically what is actually going to kill you. And the Rule of Threes goes over all of that in detail. It's really hard to say what is survival. Well, on a base level, it's don't die. The biggest issue is people get their priorities completely mixed up. You have 3 seconds without security. You have 3 minutes without air. The next thing is 3 hours without shelter. The next one is 3 days. You have 3 days without water. The key is water is more important than food most of the time, and less important than shelter or wearing the right amount of clothes. The next one is you have 3 weeks without food. You will die without shelter. You will die without water. You won't die for quite a while without food. And the last one that I add, because people tend to skip this and forget about it, is 3 months without companionship. When you find yourself in a situation, ask yourself the number one question: what will kill me first? And then use the Rule of Threes to make sure that the answer to that question is actually truthful. That should be your founding principle when it comes to wilderness survival. The Rule of Threes: what's going to kill me first? Then address that issue, then move on to the next thing, and move on to the next thing, and move on to the next thing. As an example, right now it's snowing, it's cold, I'm in the mountains. Exposure will kill me first. I need a shelter first. The next thing I need is fire so that I can purify water, cook food, keep myself heated, and keep the animals away. Essentially in the handbook, it starts out with prevention. And we have this saying in the military: proper prior planning prevents poor performance. Having said that, if you use the Rule of Threes to decide what it is that you need to prepare with, you're vastly less likely to ever even find yourself in a survival type situation. So if you're wearing the right type of clothes, it's just you spending time in the outdoors. If you brought a way to start a fire, it's again just you spending time in the outdoors. If you find yourself in your shorts in the middle of the winter, it's a true survival situation. You have to make shelter, make fire, and all that type of fun stuff. So plan properly, bring first aid equipment, bring communication equipment, deal with all those contingencies up front, and it won't become a survival situation to begin with. Fitness, let's talk fitness. One of the most important things that I learned from the military is how to get and stay fit, to drive myself to stay physically strong enough that I can run home if I need to. I can run or walk out of the wilderness. If I find myself in a situation where it's getting dark, there's a problem, I can just move out through the dark, get to the location I need to be. So fitness needs to be a major priority when it comes to wilderness survival. Fit people live, unfit people die. Essentially because they don't have the physical ability to keep driving, to keep going, and to do the things that they need to do. Okay, communications. Communication is a major thing. Basically stated, if you have good communications, you're never going to have a survival situation because you'll always be able to call or ask for help. Now, communications also involves, again, proper prior planning before you go out and do whatever it is that you're going to do. So if you're going to go hike a mountain, if you're going to go rafting somewhere, if you're going to go do some outdoor adventure, tell someone where you're going, tell them when you're leaving, tell them the trail that you're going down, and when you're going to be back. Don't expect any type of search and rescue to come and find you until after that time frame, so be realistic. If you're going to go hiking for an afternoon, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your friends, I'm going to go hike this mountain. I'm going to leave at noon, I should be back in the evening. If you're not back that evening, they can send people to come and find you. When it comes to multi-day trips, as an example, I spent some time running Desolation Canyon for about 10 days. And while we were out there, we had ham radio communications and a spot device, which is a satellite communication. When you're doing long-term, extended, very wild places, you need communications. Satellite phones are great. Spot devices are great. Ham radios are excellent as well. It all gives you redundancy, and depending on your abilities and costs, like what you can afford. A sat phone is always going to be way more expensive than a ham radio, but it's going to work in more locations. So make sure you communicate to people where you're going, when you'll be back, what you're doing, and that way someone's watching out for you just in case you have some sort of a catastrophic failure in the backcountry. Okay, monitor conditions. What monitor conditions means is this. If you start to feel any kind of a hot spot, stop and fix your blister. If you start to feel any kind of hot flashes or cold without sweating, or just something's wrong, stop and address it. Drink plenty of water. Don't overdrink water, which means add salt. So it's always drink plenty of water, but also add salt to the equation. Make sure that you're dealing with your physical ailments right now. You're not going to wait until later, not wait till you're done hiking. If you got a blister rubbing on your hip from your ruck, fix it, and fix it now. So monitor your conditions constantly, and that again goes into the proper prior planning and prevents a catastrophic issue from happening down the road. Emergency survival kit. So emergency survival kit should always have at least the following: a contingency plan for fire, water, shelter, food, communications, power for the communications, security, and medical. Everything revolves around that. Fire, so you can heat yourself, cook your food, boil your water. Water for obvious reasons. Shelter, to clothe yourself or protect yourself from the elements. In the desert, that would be a sun hat in the day, a jacket or something very warm at night. That's your shelter, in addition to an obvious built shelter. Communications is going to be anything from satellite phone, spot device, cell phone, ham radio, something, and extra power for it. If you're just bringing your cell phone, make sure you bring a battery to charge your cell phone that'll last you a week or a few days. Security. Now, security is going to change depending upon the environment. It may be bear mace, it may be a pistol, it may be a stick. Okay, whatever is appropriate for your age and your situation, make sure you bring something in the form of security. Medical is going to change as well. It's going to be dependent upon your education level. If you're very highly educated in medical level, you might be the person that carries the most medical equipment. If you have a lower education, when it comes to medical, you want at minimum something to stop bleeds, headaches, sprains, Neosporin type of things, Band-Aids for finger cuts. Very basic level medical should always be quickly accessible to you. Water. When we cover water, water needs to be something you carry and something that you replenish. So learn how to gather it in the environment that you're in and bring devices that can purify and clean the water. Filtering the water removes stuff so that it tastes better. It does not make it safe to drink. Purifying the water is what makes it safe to drink. You either kill the bacteria and stuff in it, or with a water filter that is a professional grade water filter, you remove it. Just make sure that you understand that process and have a contingency plan, whether it's a bag in your pocket with chemical tablets or an actual pump filter. Make sure that you plan on having the ability to gather water in the backcountry instead of just carrying the water you need, because you will inevitably run out. Fire should be in redundancy, so fire should have multiple levels. The best level should be your education. Learn how to do a bow drill, a hand drill, some sort of a friction fire. Back that up with the ability to do long-term flint and steel matches. Always carry a BIC. That's just the easy way to deal with stuff. Get fire education, because if you do lose your BIC, break your flint and steel, whatever, you can always go back to that bow drill and that hand drill. Communication in the backcountry can also include signal mirror. When you've got yourself a good quality signal mirror, you can let people know of your locations. If you can see them and they can't see you, a signal mirror is going to bring people in to help you with a rescue. And it's kind of a universal symbol. If you see something flashing at you that keeps continuing to flash at you, you know that that person's in an emergency situation and they need help. Survival in a group. Now, every group member is going to have a weakness and a strength. Some people may be better at fire. Some people may be better at medical. Whatever it is that you're good at, carry the tools that you can be better at that trade for the team. As an example, if you are the medical person, carry enough for everyone on the team. If you're the fire starter, make sure you have redundant levels of fire starting so that you have enough for everyone in the team. Whatever your specialty is, excel at it and communicate with the other members of your team to find out if there's anything lacking so that you or one of them can get training in that area and get equipment in that area to help you better function as a team. Okay, so what if you do find yourself lost? Remember the acronym STOP. Stop, think, observe, plan. Essentially what that does is it causes you to calm down, start using the front part of your brain again, and make wise, rational decisions. Usually when you find yourself lost or in a survival situation, the first thing you do is panic. Oh no, how did I get here? Where's this? How am I gonna do that? Stop, calm down, think. So stop, think, observe, and then plan. Sit down, rest for a minute. You'll be able to better remember where you came from to get your way back, or you'll be able to make a better decision when it comes to deciding whether or not you're gonna stop and wait for help. So first things first, always stop, think, observe, and plan. Okay, based on the rule of threes, almost always the first thing you're gonna do is shelter. It is rare that there are environments where we can last through the nighttime without freezing. So the very first thing, almost always, is to create shelter. Now, I should even back that up a little bit and say that you should have dressed appropriately for the season. If you didn't do that, you've already failed. So be sure to wear the right kind of clothing when you go out in the right environment to include the conditions you're gonna see at night. So you can always take a few layers off, but you can't put on layers that you don't have. So once you've got that square, understand how to make a shelter. A shelter is gonna be small and tight so that it can help you keep your body heat in. If you have fire, then it's gonna be open on one side towards the fire. If you don't, then it's gonna be closed on all sides. That may just be you making an arm's length pile of leaves, laying on top of that with another arm's length pile of leaves on top of you and just shivering through the night. Whatever it takes, make sure your core body heat stays up because that's the first thing that's gonna kill you. When it comes to fire, there's three things you have to remember. One, a fire is made out of oxygen, fuel, this is 2, and heat is number 3. This is the fire triangle. So always understand when it comes to the fire triangle, your fire needs 3 things. Heat, oxygen, and fuel. Fuel is a no-brainer. Fuel is pretty simple. That is the wood that you add to it. Heat is your ignition source, your candle, your lighter, your whatever. And oxygen is in the air. This is the one that we always fail with. So get yourself dry, small pieces because we need to start this out slow. Then add larger pieces and larger pieces and larger pieces. The biggest failure I always see with scouts is they get a flame going and they put something on it and snuff it out. The reason why that died is because it kicked out 2 legs of the fire triangle. You had the fuel, you had a little bit of the heat. When you put that cold thing on top of it, you took away the heat and you snuffed out the oxygen. So if you're gonna have a good fire, you've got that little chamber on the inside where the fire's gonna grow. Make sure that you let that glow for a little while with an oxygen source in the bottom and blow on it slowly. The amount of oxygen you're gonna give is gonna be dependent upon the amount of smoke. A little bit of smoke, a little bit of blowing on it. A lot of smoke, a lot of blowing on it. Don't mess this up or you'll take away the heat with your oxygen. So make sure that you're paying good attention to that. Friction fire. Friction fire should be the core of your knowledge base when it comes to starting fire. That is the thing that you fall back on when everything else has failed. So if you don't have the right tools, you broke them, you lost them, whatever, you will always come back to friction fire. The easiest one is the hand drill. However, it's one of the harder to learn when it comes to comparing it with the bow drill. So start learning the bow drill, then get good at the hand drill and let that be the thing that you do constantly. The reason why the hand drill is easiest is because it doesn't require string. The bow drill may be the easiest to start because almost always we have shoelaces on our boots and it gives us mechanical advantage. So learn both of those 2 techniques at a minimum and then get good at flint and steel, compression fires, chemical fires, and all that other fun stuff. But all else fails, have a clear bic. Clear one that you know how much liquid's on the inside of it, stick it in your pocket, keep it with you all of the time. That's your backup. It's also kind of handy to have a little bit of fat wood or something that will hold the flame with your bic. Oftentimes when you need a fire, you need it now and you're in an emergency situation. You got that bic, but it doesn't create enough heat to warm up your ignition source. Now, if you add it to a candle or a piece of fat wood or something to hold the flame, that will oftentimes dry out your fire material to the point that you can get your fire rolling and constant. Food. Everyone looks for it, nobody needs it. What I mean by that is this. You can go 3 days without water, but you can go 3 weeks without food. What this means is you should be worrying about shelter, fire, and water way before you even think about food. If you've gone 3 or 4 days and you're getting a little bit hungry, you're gonna be just fine. You might get cranky, you might not think very well. And I'm not saying don't look at food, I'm just saying get everything else taken care of before you go looking for food. Food should be the last thing that you get. If you don't have water, don't eat food, because food takes water to digest. So if you have a ton of food and no water, you need to wait until you've got water before you consume that food. Otherwise, it's going to dehydrate you further. All right, guys, hopefully this is valuable to you. If you have questions, please leave them down below. Wilderness survival comes down to you learning individual primitive skills and communication skills and just getting outdoors experience. So whatever you do, make sure you get time in the outdoors, practice the things that you're learning here, get good at whatever it is that you're trying to do. And a lot of these things will become intuitive for you. You'll just understand them because of your field experience. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments below, and I will try my best to get back to them.